So when we met on the steps at the bombed out church, you described yourself as a photojournalist.
Yes.
So just tell me about it.
Wow, photojournalism. About what it means to me or how I started being a photojournalist.
Both of those things are good.
Yeah, so I finished business school.
Yeah.
I hadn't been creative in 3 years, and I was looking to, use like my normal like question asking skills to decide on what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
So I was writing my dissertation, and someone approached me. He was a photographer, and then we happened to become friends, and then they showed me this Magnum book, and so that's sort of when the idea of being a photojournalist started.
Right.
So then I studied a short journalism course, and then there were climate protests by St. John's, and I really got into it. I felt like so much like fire and so much passion to take pictures of people being people and expressing. I guess that's where I've been led.
So I can understand the photo part of it.
Yeah.
So talk a little bit about the journalism part about it.
Yeah, I've just always been a question asker. I've always been curious about people, different people, everyday people. So that's how I got into street photography. And then, I think the journalism part was always natural, because I've always just wanted to ask questions and get to know people.
Right. One of the things I was going to introduce at some point was that when we met on the steps, I told you that I was doing individual portrait sessions, and picked up very quickly that you might be up for doing one.
Yeah.
You then said something that no one has ever said to me before, more or less, how soon could we do it?
Yeah.
No one ever says that, and that suggested to me, one, maybe ambitious, and two, eager to learn. Does that sort of capture you?
Yeah, because on the photo session you were also teaching me how to take portraits, so that's how it started.
And that's something else that's never happened.
Yeah.
So I've never walked around with anybody, and it was lovely. I enjoyed it, and I learned from doing it, but that's never happened. So there was for me there was a hunger to learn, and a confidence to ask as well, which I was really impressed with.
Yeah.
This series of conversations is partly to do with Liverpool, so can you tell me what your connection is to Liverpool?
Originally I didn't actually have a connection. It was more so my friends moved here from Chester, so I was studying in Chester, and I wanted to be in a city that wasn't too big that it would be overwhelming, and not too small that I wouldn't experience diversity. So I moved to Liverpool from Chester. This is where I did my journalism programme, and I've been here for 3 years.
So where did you do your programme?
At the art school.
Right.
Yeah.
Was that a year, 2 years?
It was 18 weeks.
Right, so pretty intense then.
Yeah, it was mostly writing.
Yeah.
But in my writing, I knew that I wanted to do photography because I like taking pictures on my phone. I didn't even have a camera. That's why Liverpool.
Okay, so tell me about your photography story then.
Wow. So it was spontaneous. Yeah. I'd always take pictures on my phone, and then when I accidentally did my first Humans of People Power series during my journalism program, I realised that I wanted to get a camera and learn a camera and actually take it seriously. So I got my first camera. It's the one I still use today, a really old Fuji, and I started with street photography, which is I think how I met you, kind of, and that was my time to learn. Build confidence as well, because I knew I wanted to do people photography journalism. So building my confidence doing street photography, travelling to London to do some street photography as well, and then camera doesn't know where we are.
We'll come on to that.
Yeah, started volunteering at the Open Eye Gallery and being amongst people who are photographers and being approached by people who are photographers.
We'll come on to the Open Eye thing, but for me that's about ambition as well, and someone who's focused on where she's going.
It's natural to me. History, like my family have like a long history that I haven't been able to perceive, so I only know it through verbal storytelling. So visual storytelling is really important to me.
Okay, so sticking with the photography then, you actually mentioned when we did the walkabout and the sort of teaching session, and at the time it struck me that technically you didn't know a lot about photography.
No.
The interesting thing is that you were taking some really nice pictures, which is quite annoying in a way. But, so, do you think you take to it naturally?
Yeah, I guess so. And you're a great teacher as well.
Thank you.
Yeah, like I think I've always had an eye, as they say. Because I had been practicing on my phone. But in terms of like learning how to use a camera, I'm still learning even now.
We all are.
Yeah.
So have you studied it at all, or are you just learning by doing?
Learning by doing.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I'm still like bombarding everyone with questions all the time.
Yeah.
I'm now learning after photography. I'm still learning about like RAW and JPEG and like dimensions and pixels.
Yeah.
I'm learning as I go along. Yeah.
Right. Well, as you learn that, don't forget the other stuff, because you've got the other stuff from somewhere. You know, which sort of celebrate that. Study the other stuff, but don't let it spoil where you were going.
Yeah.
Okay. Moving on, what inspires the work that you do?
People, community, telling stories. Yeah, telling stories. Because I'm a learner, I want to share what I've learned.
So, have you been influenced by anyone or any experience? I'm thinking of artists or creatives that have influenced you.
I never remember names. I'm photography. I'm pictures. Definitely yourself. You taught me visually as well as technically. So I do have like 2 Instagrams. One where I'm just following photographers, and even if I don't understand work, I'll still perceive it and learn from it. Specific artists. She's an animal photographer, so not quite the same as people, but I am inspired by Joanne MacArthur, Humans of New York.
Yeah.
I don't even remember his name, I just know him.
Brandon Stanton.
Yeah, that's it. Humans of New York. I tried a little bit of that, and I am doing a little bit of that as well. Direct quotes. Humans of New York, I definitely say.
It's interesting. Brandon Stanton sort of talks about his own photographs and describes them as horrible.
Oh wow!
And in truth, he isn't a brilliant photographer. He's done an amazing thing. His success is totally deserved, but it's not based really on the quality of his photography. It's on the stories that he tells, the way that he approaches people. And do you feel there's something of that in you?
Maybe. I always do get nervous when I am doing I'm always like, I'm still editing and going back to places because the exposure was way too high, and how did I even bring this picture back? I do find like people naturally feel comfortable speaking with me because I am curious, and they know that I'm curious, and I'm listening because I am curious. I'm still definitely learning the technical side.
Don't worry about that. That'll come. It's not everyone can ever get the people side of things.
I took a picture of this man at a community garden and it was way overexposed. I tried to like edit it and his skin was turning green.
Yeah.
Luckily I saw him like 2 weeks later and told him I need to retake this picture.
Yeah.
But yeah.
There's a lot of stuff on YouTube these days. Photographers screwing up and almost being proud of screwing up, particularly the large format people. And it's technically difficult, so it's not difficult to get it wrong. But they just got it wrong, go back, and so again, don't worry about that. I mean, sometimes you can't go back, but if you can, not a problem. Sticking with it, what inspires you in your work? You've had a number of projects, and those projects have come from somewhere. So where have they come from?
They're normally really spontaneous. So I did a peacekeepers project documenting a group of people who were travelling to different protests to be the sort of middle between authorities and protesters. I just so happened to move in with this person.
I think when I spoke to you, you'd just done that. You'd moved, and it sounded like it was an interesting milieu.
Yeah, travelling to like the police station with him.
That's right, yeah.
And then street photography is always just whatever happens. You can't really plan it. My most recent project, because I became an environmental projects assistant at a community garden, and because I was volunteering at the Open Eye Garden, that's how that project came about. If the gallery hadn't planned this climate project, I don't know if I would have been able to do it. It's always been really spontaneous.
Right, so just explain the dynamics. So you've got a gardening project that you're involved with, and then the Open Eye side of things.
Yeah.
And was Open Eye involved in the garden as well?
No, just this particular project. So I started volunteering for Open Eye over 2 years ago, just before the initial lockdowns. And then I've just finished with Groundwork UK, and I started there 6 months ago in August. And I told them my interests. Grosbeak is the garden that I was working at. I told them my interests because with that job they were dedicated to teaching me and allowing me to sort of learn and create. And then they got into contact with Open Eye got into contact with Groundwork because they were doing this climate change lab, and they're an environmentalist charity.
Right.
And they both knew my name, both knew that I like photography, and so then I was in a meeting one day and I was like, oh, I guess I'm doing this project.
So a bit of serendipity there.
Yeah, it happens.
Yeah, it happens, and celebrate it when it does.
Yeah.
Okay, going back probably 9 months, you were doing, I never really understood what it was, but something across the water, an exhibition.
Yeah.
Tell me about that.
I'm going the Convenience Gallery. So I am still doing workshops with families. So again, community and it's a conflict resolution workshop where we encourage others to use photography as a sort of creative therapy to resolve family issues. So when you, like a colour walk for example, when you think of your parent or your sibling, what colour does it invoke? And so then maybe think about a colour when we go on this walk, and you take pictures of leaves and someone's shirt, and did some interviews where they were interviewing each other, so it's like sort of facilitating people to use photography. And we're going to do a zine, so we're going to meet up, I don't know when you're going to post this, but we're going to meet up on Wednesday to work on the zine, so that other families can use it as a resource to then explore that.
So that project's still running?
Yeah.
and will continue to run for how long?
The zine hopefully will last as long as, but for me, I'm just doing it as a freelancer. So I think Wednesday or until the zine is published soon, the end of the month maybe. Yeah.
Okay. Go back to something that you mentioned before, and that's the photography around protests. So just practically, how did you go about that?
Initially, I'd just walk into town. So I think the first time I took a protest picture was in Chester. It was the Me Too protests. And I was just walking home from work. I used to work at the Architect, a pub in Chester. And yeah, I just took a picture of this woman and then I went home. And then the next one was during my journalism program. So our teacher told us that there's a protest downtown, so I guess she was sending us on an assignment. So then, yeah, I got there and my intention was to just interview so I can write. But I got my phone out and I was just, jumping onto things and, being a photographer, I guess.
Yeah. How close to the action?
Really close, because I just had my phone and
Right.
I didn't want to use like a zoom in the protest. I did interview some people and took pictures of them. And then there was a Hong Kong protest. I was just going to be there to support a fellow, student, because she was a bit nervous going by herself. So we went to Manchester. And,
So you were the heavy. You were the protection.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, and her intention was just to do some videos, and then I got there, and I don't know, it just the feeling when you're in a protest, I just feel compelled to, take action, I guess, through photography. And then again in London, the protests in London, I didn't expect to follow Mark on his peacekeeping sort of duties. But it was during the lockdowns and I was furloughed, so I was kind of bored at home and I'm like, oh, protest, people, photography. So I just went with him. It was just kind of, spontaneous again. Yeah.
But a big learning exercise as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Okay. And after we sort of met for the session, I started seeing some nice portraits of strangers.
Yeah.
So where did they come from, and tell me about that experience?
Different places. Some in London while I was, while I was documenting the protest down there, and then some just by the docks while I was hanging out with a friend. I just had my camera. I felt like I wanted to take my camera to capture the roller skaters, skateboarders. But then I just ended up speaking to people and then taking their portraits. And that was obviously after our session when I had learned how to take portraits. I wanted to, I guess that's why I had my camera, I wanted to put the practice in.
And good experiences, I would guess.
Absolutely. Yeah.
It is a very pleasant thing to do. Once you get past that anxiety, in a way that never goes completely.
Is it it's natural to you? Oh no, it doesn't go completely.
Oh, it never goes. No. It's always every session is a new session.
Okay.
And it's always something you look forward to.
Yeah.
But that sort of completely having it completely off pattern, no concern. Well, it hasn't disappeared from me anyway, and I suspect it never will do.
Oh, wow.
And in a way, that's probably a good thing.
Yeah.
Just to keep you on your toes a little bit and keep you thinking. Moving on to what I think is your current project, which is portraits of volunteers.
Yes.
Tell me about that, because that sounds like a big project, that one.
Yeah, it wasn't even a project that I thought of. Again, John from Groundwork had spoken to the people who run the Open Eye Gallery, and we're trying to figure out how I can be used to talk about food growing. And so we thought it's one thing to take pictures of the food, which is great, but how can we also celebrate the people who dedicate their spare time to community projects, even if not necessarily food growing, just being there, being with community. So yeah, I've been traveling around Liverpool. I've been traveling around to Liverpool to different community gardens. So in Toxteth, there's 2 in Bootle, Egbert, all around Everton.
But are they post portraits of people who are expecting you to come?
So I normally contact the facilitator beforehand, show them the project idea, tell them like how the portraits are going to be used. But the volunteers themselves, even sometimes I even turn up and I'm just telling them what I'm doing.
Right.
And because I also work at a community garden, there's that sort of kindred.
Yes.
So I volunteer there as well. So I'm not just like there to take from them for my project. There to help out as well and learn from them and share what I've learned. But yeah, sometimes they know I'm coming. Sometimes I get there and then I end up taking get there during their Christmas wreath making session and take 15 portraits. Sometimes I get there and they're a bit shy and I have to go there a few times until they realise, that I want to celebrate them.
So we're across the way from Open Eye now. So are the pictures that are showing outside your pictures?
Yeah, 2 of the pictures.
Well, I'll film them shortly, but it's going to be quite an impressive achievement for a young lady.
I hope so. Yeah.
So
I wouldn't have learned how to take portraits if you hadn't taught me.
Oh, excellent. So what will the end result of that project be? Am I right, 100?
That's what I was aiming for.
Yeah.
But I gave myself that sort of that goal.
Yeah.
I think it'll end up being about 70, 80.
That's not bad then.
Yeah, it's been nice. And originally, I think we wanted to display all of them indoors in the second room.
Yeah.
Just portraits all over. To show representation, like a volunteer or a person involved in community growing isn't just one person. We all look differently, and then as well as their portraits being on the wall, there'll be some on the digital screen upstairs, along with some quotes from them, quotes about their history, how they got into growing, to encourage others to become involved.
Impressed. And what we're looking at is 5 feet by 3 feet?
They won't be that big indoors.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm not sure how big they'll be indoors. But yeah, they're about, I don't know about feet, but 150 centimetres long side.
150, so that's best part 6 feet, isn't it? Yeah. All right, nice one. Got the quality and the size as well, which is always a good thing. Okay, well, congratulations on that. That's really impressive.
Thank you.
As you've talked about doing things in a spontaneous way, but I think there's more there. I think the smaller things might be spontaneous, but it feels like there's a sort of grand plan. And if there is, what is it and where are you going?
So since starting this project of Open Eye, I've learned that I have to be a little bit more organised as well.
Yeah.
So with street photography, I was able to just go out when I felt like it. If I got a picture, I got a picture. I think my plan is to be sent on assignments as a freelancer. I want to be a freelancer, to travel to different places and speak to even more cultures.
Yeah.
I have a trip to Zambia in April, and that's not through work. Personally, my dad has a farm there.
Yeah.
So I'm still, as well as a photographer, photojournalist, I am still a food grower. I'm still a farmer.
Yeah.
I have a farming. My family have a farming background. I still want to grow food. So I guess my plan is what I'm doing now with the Open Eye, but even deeper, and even. So I've done photography in urban spaces. I'd like to go to the country as well and speak to people who are maybe growing food or involved in community in different places. Yeah.
Across the world or across the UK or?
Next, I think across the world to Zambia.
Yeah.
On my dad's farm, and then after that, I've no idea.
It just feels as though it's not accident what's happening.
No.
You're making progress pretty quickly.
Yeah.
And you do get accidents, but if things happen consistently,
Yeah.
it's not an accident.
I think as long as I keep taking steps in the sort of photojournalism direction, then things will fall in place. I am very spiritual, so I know that things will fall in place. I knew things weren't an accident when I met you, honestly. I was like, this is so random. Like, well, not random. This is so random that it can't be random. That I want to be a photographer, and a photographer has approached me and is teaching me as well as practicing their craft. Yeah.
Funny thing about that is that when I saw you for the first time, you'd got the big hair.
Yeah.
And then when you turned up for the photo session, you'd got a scarf on, and I was thinking, how could you possibly fit all of that hair under the scarf? And then you sort of came with, was it crocheted on?
Yeah. And now I've got this.
Well, you sort of
every time
part way between the two, aren't you, at the moment, which looks great. But so that was quite shocked when you turned up, and I'm thinking, where is it? But, and when you talk about sort of the spiritual side of things, I think you're probably right. When I sort of spotted you then, there might have been something going on, but it was also about you made it materialise into something. And there was something in your response to me when I was talking about doing the portrait sessions, and there was an interest there, and sort of almost like a light switching on. Thinking, I'm going to have some of this. And of course you did, and that comment I made about you're saying, how soon can we do it? Being unheard of in my experience was great. Okay, so specific plans for this year? You're going to Zambia?
Yes.
How long for?
My initial thought is a month. Who knows what will happen when I get
Open
there.
ticket.
It depends on my dad, and because I want to go to Rwanda as well. So my dad's side of the family is Zambian, mum's side are Rwandan. So I'd like to go there as well. Bar being born there, I've never travelled around Africa.
Right.
So it's
an amazing experience.
I've an urge, my heart has an urge, as well as to tell the stories there.
Last question then, and part of the sort of, if you like, the essence of this project that I'm working on, the Conversation Project, is to ask artists and creatives if there is anything significant about Liverpool that impacts, influences, or guides the work that they do. And in a way, I'm not bothered if there isn't, but I'm interested to find out, because there is this notion that Liverpool is a place of culture, of music, of all sorts of things creative. So is there anything about Liverpool that's had an impact on you?
Yeah, so when I was, like I said, when I was studying my business program, I wasn't creative for 3 years, and I was always creative growing up, even if not photography, making clothes and drawing and so being here, I don't know if I stayed in Chester if I would have been able to reach the creative potential that I feel that I am. So being here, I love that it's not a bombardment of creativity. Obviously you see the fashions, Bold Street, but it's still something that I can digest without becoming so overwhelmed. I can volunteer at a gallery without waiting for months before I get an email back. Like, it still feels personal.
Yeah.
Liverpool are where most of my friends are, and my friends are creatives, and I wouldn't be creative if I wasn't around people who were. I think Liverpool's a really accessible creativity, and the project that I'm doing, I didn't purposely choose to document Liverpool City region, so that was assigned to me. But I'm obviously grateful for that because I get to cycle around. I cycle everywhere, so creativity is literally a cycle away for me. Yeah.
So you're saying yes?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Well, it's been lovely to talk to you. It's actually quite moving to know that I've put, had a little bit of an impact or influence.
Absolutely, yeah.
Which I didn't really see it. So that's nice from my point of view. I hope the accidents continue to happen in a fortuitous way, but I also think that that grand plan linked to the accidents is going to take you to some really good places. So
thank you.
Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Nice one. Yeah.